welcome back to the LinkedIn Logs. I'm your host, Chad White. If you didn't know, this is the jobs podcast for the website cpluscomedy.com. Like I just said, it's a website. Go there. Welcome back in episode 80. Here we are. I haven't done this in a month. Mostly because there has not been a lot to talk about. And also, that's pretty much it. There's not been a lot to talk about. There's something on here that I have from July 25th. And there's another thing I have on here from August 10th. So I'll just go ahead and I'll talk about those things. But know that I had those prepared. And I just didn't do the show. Mostly because nothing's been going on. All right, so let's get into this. What's been going on with me? Well, the contract is over. I know I mentioned that at some point, but I did like one thing with, actually there's two things I did. I did one thing with this, unfortunately, AI company. Training an AI model, which is, I did not want to do it. But I saw how much they were offering. And I went, I guess I have to do it. If even just to take care of, groceries for me and the animal. The tiger behind me. So I took this thing. It's with a company called Aligner with 2 R's. And you train, the whole goal is to train this AI, artificial intelligence tool or chatbot. I don't even know I don't know how to classify it because I have no idea what it is. So this whole idea is to train their tool. Oh, LinkedIn is down. Okay. Well, interesting. The whole idea, nope, it's back. So I sat on this platform that they have. First of all, they have way too many websites. And another thing is I could not find anybody saying anything negative about this, but also there were hundreds of people commenting within, I'd say dozens, maybe a couple hundred, but commenting within their Slack or what's the one that people who get Discord? I think it's Slack. Commenting within their Slack. And there's so many backwards. Again, there's so many websites, and then there's so many backward instructions. Really, I would probably say there's 2 websites, but that's 2 websites too many. So Aligner is the platform, and then you get your projects via Labelbox. Aligner is like the not landing page, but it's a place where you do tests. So you would sit down and say, what are you good at? Okay, well, I'm good at writing. I'm good at other things, but it's mostly writing. Then they give you these recommended assessments, and they're all going to be 20 minutes long. And so they have one that's like communications, technical writing, communications, nonfiction writing, communications, documentation. So different ones. And then they have a chart with your earnings. Now, these tests are not the things you get paid for. They're assessments to assess how well you know the topic at hand, the very specific topic at hand. Now it sounds like to me, and to you, the audience, that this is fake, but also kind of like a waste of time. You do these. You start your assessment, and you sit down with their AI, Zara. You sit down with Zara, and you have a 20-minute conversation. Now, I'm not somebody who uses an AI tool on a daily basis. I tangentially pop in, and I don't use it for creativity or communication or anything like that. I just use it to basically handle things that I don't want to do, like small things that I could do by hand. And even then, it does not do it well. I tried to make a list yesterday specifically of I was planning today's workout and I had like 20 things on there, and I went, I just need to know which one. I need a list so I could mark it down by hand or whatever. Chat GPT could not handle taking the copy and paste from my app, my workout app of choice. So I had to write everything down in the Notability app on iPad, just by hand. I didn't have to write it down, but I chose to do that. Because, you got to use these pencils and these pens. Samsung, I have this S25 Ultra now, and they take away things you can do with the pens. So now I'm out here pulling out the pen at least once a day, pretending to write something. But I was on the iPad when I did that. Anyway, you sit down with Zara and you have a conversation, and she is this AI bot. It's a woman's voice, but an AI bot or a female presenting. But it's an AI bot, and you have a 20-minute conversation, and there's a back and forth. You answer its questions. Zara will say something along the line, and there'll be a huge preamble. I'll look at this this nonfiction writing and I'll make up a question. Whenever there's a student in a class, like if you were to pretend you were a teacher, if you're a student in a class, if you had students in your class and one student didn't understand how nonfiction, was different from fiction, please state that. And then you would state that, and then Zara would bounce back with, "That's right. You're comparing and contrasting this and that." You're like, "Oh my God, like that makes sense." Yeah. And then if you do well at it's not even about doing well. There's no graded response, because I did one assessment that I had to take, and also you have to take assessments if you want to be placed in projects. So if I'm not good at technical writing for communications, I have to go through this conversation for 20 minutes and be like, "Hey, I don't understand. And then she'll be like, "Let me rephrase," or it'll be like, "Let me rephrase." So if you're placed in a project, you're placed in a project. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily getting the project, at least from my understanding. For the only two active ones I have are Rainforest Audio, English auditioning, and Gravity Audition, English US Human Evals Response. And you're given a task of labeling, and they're both, in production or not in production. They give you the pay rate for the first one, Rainforest Audio, says $25 an hour. Roughly what it is they're all different, but for this Rainforest Audio one, you were tasked with labeling if the AI gave you a correct answer or not. So you would ask it questions that you were given, there was a prompt that you had. I can't go back and see, but there was a prompt that it was, give your response to this, and then you would give your response. Not even a response. It was like you'd have to give canned answers that it provided you. So give your response to this and say it angry, or say it happy, or say it sad, or say it with apprehension. And you have to say it into the microphone from 2 feet away, from 10 feet away. Truly, like that's how it was. And the thing would pick it up. The AI tool would pick it up, and then it would write down what you said. And then it would split it into two answers. One, AIA, AIB. And then you would have to listen back to the AI, both of them read it. And one was going to be very verbose and answer the thing. The other one's not going to be very verbose, but also answer the thing. And then you would give reasons why, which one was better, why that one was better. Answer a survey, and you did all that for $25 an hour. So those are the basics. That's roughly what it is. Because again, I can't go back into this thing because there's no way for me to do more work for it. Again, I wasn't even paid for that. I wasn't even selected to do that. I don't understand how people are getting paid from this. They're just training an AI thing. And then was that it? Was that okay? So there was another thing via this other company that I've done things with before and have gotten paid. UTest. You know what? I can talk about this. I tested Facebook's new or Meta's new scrolly majig thing where you wear like a wrist bracelet and then you type on your leg and you scroll up and down using your fingers and all that stuff. They announced that, so I did it. I had signed an NDA a long time ago, but I had to go to a place in Midtown. Buckhead doesn't matter. I went to a place in Midtown, and I had to like do a thing for an hour or so. And then I was paid. I had to hide my phone. They took your phone and everything. They were very just like. Ugh. One day I'll talk about that experience. It's nothing spectacular, but there were like before you went, before they chose you, you had to answer questions like, what hand do you write with, and do you speak English? Like what languages do you? If not English, then what language do you primarily speak? Because then when you were assigned the device, if you said you write with your left hand, but you were actually more of a right-hander, then you had to use the device with your left hand. And if you said you spoke Spanish most of the time, it would be in Spanish. The instructions would be in Spanish. So, yeah, I just remember very specifically, in my room, there were people who were like, oh no, I thought, you could switch back and forth. Like, no, we're beta testing. So for UTest, I did an AI, it was a Google, I signed an NDA. It doesn't fucking matter. It was a Google-based AI thing where I had to basically all the safeguards that I turned on on day one when I got my Google Home Minis for the first time, I had to turn them all off. The recording of my voice, the other things that involve, Google being able to creep in. So I had to turn all that stuff off and then do some stuff, like ask it questions every day and for like 3 days straight. So yeah, I did that. But now here's the most important thing in all of that. I think about 2 weeks ago, or maybe last week, I don't remember. I applied to a job for I will say national news organization. It's not cable. It's not broadcasting. I guess you could say it's cable. I applied to this job, and then I get a response back from. I guess I don't know. I'll be very upfront with you. I just had the third interview. To like truly, how long am I into this? 14 minutes, 16 minutes ago. It just ended 16 minutes ago. And I said, I'm wearing a shirt. Might as well sit down. And the microphone's out. Might as well sit down. But that person referred to as the first person as the recruiter. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. I have to look through my notes. And yeah, there's so many friggin' notes. But we had a conversation regarding the job. The recruiter, she basically interviewed me. Why am I trying to hide genders too? I talked to all women, no big deal. But we spoke for 30 minutes, and all three of the people, we spoke for roughly 30 minutes each, but all three of the people were, just very gung ho about the position that they've opened up. It's a new position, and in a there's no bureau, but I'm going to refer to Atlanta as the bureau. But there's a new position in this new bureau that they're opening up, and they're only hiring like 5 people, including an EP. Yes, I was correct. So hiring like 5 people, including an EP, and they have It's all via, and I'll talk about it. I think I'm 90% sure I'm getting, not, I don't think. I'm 90% sure they're going to hire me. We'll see what happens. I've been led astray before. But they have a lot of networks and bureaus. It's basically local news in a local news in a national format. And I would more or less be a pseudo multimedia journalist, producer type thing. Basically, writing and shooting news for local, but also national, because they do have national, and just daily newscasts. And I'd be doing it all on my own. It's a full time position. You get the benefits. I will say this: for someone like me, who, as you all know, my resume, I worked at WXIA, NBC News, in 2016, and then the Weather Channel, and then EW Scripps, and then Cartoon Network, and then CNN. And in between, I've had a lot of small, not good jobs or projects. And in between all that, I've been running the portfolio that is C Plus Comedy. This amount of money that they're looking to pay for a full-time position for news, for someone who has the year is 10 years of experience at a lot at major companies, and 12 years of running, also C Plus Comedy's 12, happy birthday, just turned 12 2 weeks ago, as well as 12 years of running a portfolio, longer than any of these TikTokers, these mental healthers, any of these other, even these celebrities. The amount that is on the table is so, and I'm gonna use this word, pitiful. It is so pitiful. It is so small. But again, since CNN, and even before that, I've been so unable to find a position, even like a part-time position at a restaurant. And don't be one of those people on LinkedIn that's like, you should go to the Walmart. No, these companies, these stores, they don't want to hire you. These restaurants, because they assume that you're just going to leave them in 2 weeks. And buddy, if I could, I would. The job market is rough. Do not leave your jobs. I don't care how unhappy you are. Don't do it. It's so small. It's so small. So they're looking to launch this bureau in October. And they're looking to finalize the hirings by late September to early October. The news coverage would be all of Atlanta, including the suburbs, with decent hours, 8 to 5, 9 to 6. You know me, I don't enjoy working shifts. I like doing my thing, baby. And yeah, that's pretty much it. They would provide, I'll talk about this. They would provide a phone, an iPhone, a gimbal. It better be 17 Pro, Pro Max. We only get the biggest and the best in this house. A gimbal, a Steadicam of some sort. Yeah, a gimbal. A wireless lav microphone, or just a wireless mic. A car, because they don't have a physical space, and they're not going to pay you to use your mileage. And a MacBook with Premiere on it. You'd also be cutting vertical, I assume, for Instagram, because it just says Instagram on here, and I'm almost positive we have that. I took a writing test. I spoke to the managing director, and then today's interview was with the vice president of news, but she was a vice president. And they all seemed pretty ready to take, to have me join the team. There are on-camera possibilities, but and this was specified today. And again, I would tell you the same thing I told the young lady who I spoke to today, the vice president. There are on-camera opportunities, she said, but don't expect it to be every day for every story. It would just be for one story once a month. I fully did not expect that to even happen. I just thought I would shoot packages and then it'll be on a news thing at least once a day. And it would truly just be like a package, like a 45-second story, a minute-long story. That's great. So at least I have that. I don't think I want to talk about these two stories. Well, I'll move on to that. Okay, hold on. All right, this next thing comes from Katie Kilkenny of The Hollywood Reporter. The Pitt Production Assistants launched landmark unionization drive. It's not often that you hear about one show or one movie or one very hyper specific thing launching a union, but it's great that for a show like The Pitt that is so health worker forward and health worker conscious, that these PAs can use that kind of leverage to say this is one of the biggest shows of the past year, the past television season. We should make our own union. So the PAs and assistants are unionizing. And this is the first time ever that this has ever happened, says the Production Assistants United organizer Ethan Ravens, who, like other leaders in the movement, is a production assistant himself. It's huge. The group is affiliated with the Hollywood Laborers Union, LIUNA Local 724. It's targeted a little under 20 workers on the show, including all production assistants and other on-set support staffers like personal and executive assistants. Again, this is such a huge thing. Production assistants and personal assistants are usually the bottom of the rung on the ladder. They can be mistreated. They can be talked down to. They're some of the first people on the set, some of the last to leave. Here, you can see that as the Kilkenny writes here, organizers have pitched a tent outside of a parking structure adjacent to the Warner Bros. Studio lot, where crew members and background actors tend to park. They arrive as early as 4:45 in the morning and leave as late as 8 p.m. at night. Everybody should be recognized. And then finally, this comes from New York Times, written by Natasha Singer. Goodbye, 165,000 tech jobs, student coders seek work at Chipotle. So as these companies are experiencing giant layoffs, we have Microsoft, Amazon, and others, as they embrace AI coding tools, computer science graduates who, they're very smart people that were once promised these jobs in Silicon Valley, even if, we heard that a lot of them would just choose to sleep in vans or their cars and right outside the office and go to work. They were once not promised jobs, but like essentially you go to school, you go to code, you go to learn coding at school, you get your degree, and then the world is your oyster. The Silicon Valley world is your oyster. Now they're just opting to get regular jobs that people who aren't coders usually have. Since the early 2010s, a parade of billionaires, tech executives, and even U.S. presidents has urged young people to learn coding, arguing that the tech skills would help bolster students' jobs prospects as well as the economy. Tech companies promised computer science graduates higher salaries and all manners of perks. And again, at Google, for instance, people would be making $100,000. They have free food on the campus and all, and you could play ping pong and hoverboards and all that stuff. But that has since toppled, mostly because these companies are just letting people go left and right. Even as people are learning coding in college, last year, the undergraduates majoring in the field topped $170,000 in the U.S. Excuse me, 170,000 undergraduates majoring in that in the U.S. alone. That's double the 2014 numbers, according to Computing Research Association, a nonprofit that gathers data annually from about 200 universities. But now those promises are essentially gone. Computer science and computer engineering majors are facing some of the highest unemployment rates, 6.1% and 7.5%, respectively, according to a report from the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. That's more than double the unemployment rate among recent biology and art history graduates, which is just 3%. So we have these very smart people who can't get who learned I'll say probably still a niche skill, and if not niche, then it's right outside of it. Who learn these skills, a skill of coding, who's certainly more useful than I. They can't get jobs, and we're all in the same boat. Now, again, we were promised you go to college, you graduate, and you get a job. That's what we were promised. I do feel as though, especially when I graduated college, some of the people before that, some of the people after that, we've been disenfranchised from that notion, because that's not what happened. I worked in a factory for months, and then I was offered WXIA, and even still, it was $10 an hour, and I was driving from the suburbs to do the job. And then my first well-paying job, and still the only time I've ever had healthcare, was with EW Scripps, where I was making $40,000 before taxes. When the pandemic hit and I was there, we had a meeting. The meeting before I was let go from the company, we had because there was a meeting. I had a meeting before, and then like 2 months later, in December, I was let go. But when people were working from home, all the editors were working from home, I was one of 5 people still coming into the office, and I remember sitting down with my boss over Zoom, who was at home. And I said, hey, if they get, compensation for, their internet, shouldn't I get compensation for driving to work? Because it would still take me, 20 minutes, even though there was no traffic. Still take me 15, 20 minutes to get there in the morning, and I'd stay all fucking day. And I came like with numbers, and I was like, hey, after taxes, I'm only taking home $26,000, and these people are, there. And she just gave me, a BS answer. She had just gotten promoted. And I'm just thinking, that's not fair, Ebony. That's not fair. I figure I'm going to burn bridges as much as I possibly can, because this shit doesn't matter. This shit does not matter. I see people writing their suicide manifestos on LinkedIn, getting job offers in the comments. I write, hey, I'm still looking for work. It's been 3 years. And I'm sent messages. You shouldn't be writing that. How dare you? It's a privilege. I wish I was kidding. But it's tough. And I think people who aren't in this situation don't fully understand. You have, as much as I think that these people are smart and engaged, I think that they lack the current real world experience, and that is, you know, the people I'm talking about are Kara Swisher and Scott Galloway. As smart as I think they are, they have a lot to say about people in my industry. They don't necessarily, just because what they experienced, you know, not even like similar things, but because from what I can tell based on their careers, they've been on the outside. If you could, you know, brag about selling a company, like, oh, the company was going to go down, so I sold it and I made $10 million, then you're as, again, we all voted the same, but you're as lost as the Elon Musks of the world. Yeah, yes, you're a little bit more in touch than the other rich people or the non-celebrities, but to the two of them and to the other people that are in their bracket and in their surroundings that they you know, pal around with, you don't have this. You're not in the same boats as us, as regular people who, you know, have to apply to Chipotle or to do this or do that just to get around, just to get by. So it's tough, and you know, it's really strange that all of this still kind of is happening, and it's only going to get worse. And it doesn't matter. You can't, going back to school is not going to change anything. You just, a lot of this is, you know, every good actor or musician or artist in general will attribute not just their skill to why they're successful, but also luck, timing and luck. And you just have to get lucky sometimes. I wanted to check and see if the sun was still out so I could go to the pool. Hey man, this apartment's expensive, and I'm going to use the amenities as much as I can before one day I'm ousted. Listen, if you like what you heard here, head to the website, cpluscomedy.com, where it's down right now, but it'll come back at some point. If you want to see a video version of this show, go to youtube.com/cpluscomedy, where you can see a video version of the other podcast, Late Night Lately, the Late Night Show, also on hiatus, and the Constitutionals, the Entertainment Business News podcast. So watch me talk to famous people under the interviews on youtube.com/cpluscomedy, and subscribe to those shows wherever you get your podcasts. Follow me on social media. Follow us on social media at C Plus Comedy on TikTok, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Me at Chad Black White on those platforms. Thank you so much for listening. We'll see you next time. Bye.